Welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. This week we have Kurtis Lamberton of Lambertone Pickups, and we're just so happy to have you on. What's up, man?
Hey man, good to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been hearing for I guess about the last 6 months since summer now. Been hearing just great things about your pickups, and I've got several friends who are playing your pickups and have them installed in their guitars, and so I just I just wanted to have you on to kind of tell your story and to so our listeners could just get a feel for what Lambertone is all about and the man behind it. And so I guess if we want to just kind of back up a little bit before the pickups and everything, and talk about your musical journey, how you got into the guitar world, and kind of what drew you in there. So I mean, kind of where did it begin for you?
Okay, well, man, that goes back a long ways. My first documented musical journey started when I was 2 years old, and my family has this home video of me uh, using these plastic rods to play the drums, and that's where it all began. And I've been just obsessed with rhythm and music and melody and singing since I was a kid. And I grew up in the church. I grew up singing in choirs in a private school. Grew up going on music tours every year, um, all over the place. And so I've always had a passion for music and um, also music ministry and music in the church and that type of thing. But just music in general has been just really important to my life and me as a healthy human. Music has been a huge part of who I am. Um, how I got into guitar because my parents made me play piano, and I hated it. I played classical piano for about 10 years and never learned really how to read music. I always played by ear, and I went from teacher to teacher to teacher because they kept trying to force me to learn how to read sheet music, and they cover my hands with a piece of cardboard or a cereal box and tell me to look at the page and read the notes. And was just very insistent on learning by ear. And so uh, I remember when I think I was 13, 12 or 13, I told my parents the only thing I wanted for my birthday was a certificate that said I don't have to take piano lessons anymore. And eventually that happened, and that's when I got into guitar. And my parents got me a little nylon string acoustic guitar. And of course, the first thing I wanted to do was buy an electric guitar. And so I saved up for a while and bought this. I don't even know what it was. I don't have it anymore. I wish I did. It must have been a Squire or less. A Squire or less was my first Strat style electric guitar. And I grew in playing guitar and eventually started helping out with the youth group at our school and church, and then worked at summer camp and was leading worship and church praise music with guitar in that way and singing a lot, and went to college and really sort of had this push and pull thing. My family's background is all in the medical field, and so I've always sort of felt this pressure to join that, I guess, that way of life. But I never felt comfortable just committing and actually doing that and going through medical school and fellowship and then finding a practice somewhere. And I just sort of felt like the black sheep of the family, if you will, because I was this artistic, creative, this creator that wanted to work with my hands and create music and just feel more of music in the world around me. So I ended up actually doing a degree, a 4-year degree in automotive technology. And that way I could work with my hands. I could create and build things, and I was doing music on the side. Dabbled in recording, but never really got serious into it. And for my young adult life, that's really sort of what it was like. I was dabbling my fingers in a lot of different things, in recording, in photography, in automotive industry. After I finished my automotive degree, I actually did a degree in photography, and then I was shooting weddings, both in still photos and video, professionally for a little while, and then actually went back and started doing electrical engineering, just really struggling to find what I was made to do and made to be, and really at the same time knowing that I didn't want to be in the medical field, and that was sort of always the backup. I think my family sort of was waiting for me to sort of give in to my calling, if you will, and I didn't do that. I just kept trying different things and never really going 100% with one thing. I would dabble in this thing here, and then at the same time I would be like, I don't know if like this is going to be it, so I'm going to try this also at the same time. And so before I know it, I'm 6-7 years of just doing a bunch of little things and not really niching down and getting good and proficient, and certainly not profitable at one thing. And so what happened next is I actually met my now wife, and I moved home for a little while, and was sort of saving up some money, trying to figure out what I was actually going to do next. And a friend of mine, he had a connection at a local guitar builder, and he told me, he's like, you know what, wherever you are in life, invest in your community. It's like, even if you're going to be there for a year, or if you're going to be there for 5 years, or you're going to be there for 3 months, always invest, because otherwise you'll never know what could happen. You'll never see any benefit if you don't invest. And maybe it's hard, maybe it's difficult, but you can always learn something from investing in other people and in other things. And so I tried to take that advice, and I took this job at a local guitar builder, and what they had me doing there was doing their setups and building pickups. And so I started dabbling in that in some of the extra time that I had, and doing just diving in research and development into how pickups are manufactured and built, and what kind of what different things I can manipulate to change how the sound comes out, and what variables there are, and because there's a lot of things now that I'm deeper in the industry. I feel like there's a lot of snake oil stuff out there that people think, this does this or this doesn't do that, and trying to search through that and figure out, well, what things actually do make a difference, what things actually do matter in the construction, what variables can I change and then expect, can I expect the results to differ based on those changes. And in a way, I sort of found, I don't know, calling is sort of a strange term for me, but I sort of found my calling in this area of electronics and pickups and stuff like that, because I took such a clinical approach to it. So instead of a medical research background, I'm actually doing scientific, taking a scientific process to tone manipulation. And I have a patient personality, and I'm not a musician in that way. I'm a pretty patient guy, and so I can change one thing and then go through the entire process to see what that manipulates, what that changes, and then I can change one other thing. And that's actually really important when you're making pickups, because you can't just change a bunch of things and then analyze that and expect to figure out what kind of tone you're going to get. And so you need to be able to take it slow in that way. At least that's what I found. That's what's really worked for me. But how Lambertones came about from that is I was there at this guitar builder for a short time, and ended up just sort of coming to a point pretty quickly that there wasn't really much area to grow. It was a pretty small place, not a great place to grow a career out of. And so I recognized that fairly early and ended up going out on my own and then spending about a year doing R&D into my own pickup line and seeing if there could be something there. And then in February of this last year, of 2018, February 1st, that's when we officially opened our internet doors.
Awesome. So there's a couple things there in your story. First of all, your background and coming up in church and playing music in church and everything. We've got a lot of guys who are in that scene who listen to the show, and that's where I've got my background as well. So, I guess let's dive off into that first. Is there anything from, coming from that perspective as a player, you think that has shaped kind of what you do and why you create the way you do?
I mean, I think our environment always has an impact in some way in what we do, right? So, I think in a way that having this background in church and worship players and stuff like that, it certainly allows me to speak the language more easily. It allows me to communicate with those kind of players just organically. And in the same way, if I grew up as a metalhead and just playing in metal bands, like that would be a language I could speak to a lot more naturally than someone who grew up in pop. So I think because of my background in church music and worship music and leading worship and being involved in church teams and that type of thing, it certainly has influenced my just the natural audience that I would be able to talk to easily, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it totally does. And kind of circling back around, you talked about trying several different things and kind of trying to find your pathway into your kind of your purpose, and you shared how someone had told you to find that sense of community, and that's something. If we want to speak to that for a minute, kind of this community of musicians and gearheads. There's something there that, especially with online communities that have popped up in the last several years, it seems to make this, when it used to be, if you're in a local scene, you're kind of limited to a certain handful of players, but when you go to this online community of gearheads, all of a sudden it opens up and there's this whole huge wide world of people that are into the same things, that are looking for the same things, that there's a lot of void sometimes in finding the exact piece of gear that you're looking for. And so what is that like, kind of coming into the gear community from that angle as a builder? What does community mean to you, and kind of how does that translate into Lambertones?
Yeah, well, I mean, online community is very different than local community, and I think both are important, especially
Absolutely.
to run a successful company. So in that way, Lambertones would not be here without the online community. That's for sure. So I think that, it really has been vital to not only the success of Lambertones at this point, but the existence. So, but I wouldn't say that was the easiest to break into, because once you join a Facebook group or you're invited into a Facebook group or an online forum, and you're introduced, or in my case, the first group I joined was Worship Guitar Sounds on Facebook, and I wasn't invited to it. I just joined and made a post about what I was doing, and no one knows who I am. No one cares about who I am and what I make, and they certainly have no reason to believe that what I do is better or even up to par with stuff that has been tried and true and industry tested for years. And I think in a way, that Worship Guitar Sounds group was a safer entry point for me, because it was based around a church group of players, which again is familiar language to me, and so that was a safe way to go. But they were also very open and willing to talk about their tone quest, and some guys are willing to try anything to get the next best thing. And so that's sort of that's the way the online community has really made a difference in Lambertones. It's kind of strange. My wife and I moved to Central Washington State a year and 3 months ago, and that was right around the same time that I was just about starting Lambertones. And so we didn't have a local community at all, and we were still trying to find a church, and so we didn't have a local community to rely on and to bounce ideas off of. And so as I was starting this company, not only did I not have much industry help, because I didn't know really anybody, but I also didn't have a local group of people or anyone that I knew would be sort of a mentor to me, in the area that I'm living. And so I sort of had to find that in other ways, and I found that through these online groups and through Instagram and Facebook forums and stuff like that. So it's crazy. It's crazy to me that has really been the jumpstart and the life spark of Lambertones.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you moved to Central Washington. Where were you at before that?
I was in the Portland, Oregon area.
Okay. And that's like Gear Central seems to be.
And there's a lot of guys in that area that are building great stuff. And I actually found out more. I found more guys after I moved away that were in the Portland area. So I was kind of bummed once I got out here to Yakima, because there's really nobody out here. The closest guy, which he's awesome, I really love Rick, is Rick Matthews of Matthews Effects.
Yeah.
He's out in Tri-Cities, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from me. So
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, going into, we talked about how your foray into playing guitar and this journey into forming Lambertones. So in this last year and a half that Lambertones has existed, what have you learned out of that experience, and kind of maybe what are some things that you want to try?
Boy, we would need to talk for a year for me to share with you what I've learned in the last year. It's yeah, I would say probably what I'd want to share is that making a commitment to something and actually going all in to a reasonable point is probably the most important thing and the best thing that I've ever done, is to actually believe that what I'm going to do is going to work. And if it's not going to work, well, that's okay, but I'm going to try and give it my all. And I'd never done that really. I'd always, like we were talking about earlier, I'd always sort of dabbled back and forth into things and never really committed to something, and sort of always planned to have a back door and a way out. And this was something that I finally was able to be honest with myself and with my wife, and just praying through it, and just making the mental choice over and over again to be like, you know what, we're going all in, and I'm going to believe in it like this is it. And I can't imagine being here today if I didn't do that, because I didn't know how to do things. I didn't know how to source parts. I didn't know how to get a shipping account. I had no idea how to process orders and keep keep customers happy that I've never met before in my life. I'd never done that before. I hated talking on the phone. I didn't like following up with people. I really, really avoided. I can't anymore, but I really used to avoid reading emails. And those are not good qualities to have when you own a business. And so those are all things that I had to face and had to make changes and had to grow. And I've been in this awkward and uncomfortable growing state every single day since I started Lambertones. And I think that's been the best thing for me personally. And it's been a great thing for this company too, because we haven't really gotten comfortable. There always seems to be things that are just on the edge. Always little fires that we seem to be putting out that aren't just catastrophic, but they're definitely growing pains and definitely lessons that I get to learn every single day. Like, for example, right now, we are in the middle of this winter storm. We're like 4 days into this winter storm, and I had ordered some pickup wire to make our crema humbuckers about a week and a half ago, timing it because I had a couple pounds of wire left, and I knew that it was going to get here in time and I'd be okay. But this storm has been a brewing, and it has stopped all freight from coming in, and so I'm sitting here doing other things when I should be winding cremas, and I don't have wire to wind cremas. And that's a learning opportunity. And so now I'm going to take a look at my inventory, and when I get to the last spool of wire, I'm going to order more. And so it's stuff like that. It's just little things, but it happens every day. And you have to grow with that. You have to learn from that and move forward. And so I can't tell you how many hundreds, if not thousands, of little things that have happened since day one that I've just had to grow through and struggle through.
Yeah. Well, I heard a songwriter say one time about, if you've got, speaking to earlier, if you've got a plan B, you're going to take it, because plan A is usually the really hard thing to do. And so diving in and just going for it, and this is plan A is the only way it's going to be. Sometimes I think that's what pushes us to do things and get out of our comfort zone. And then I saw this quote, and it really rang true with me. Maybe others are familiar with it, but I heard it this week, and it was, the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. Yeah, and if we're just comfortable, we're not living our dreams. We're not pursuing our dreams. And so that's inspiring, what you talked about, as in pursuing that dream, seeing your company come to a realization, and then overcoming the day-to-day challenges, and kind of digging in and learning kind of what the business is about.
I mean, yeah. And just to respond to that, I wouldn't even say that it was a dream. I mean, I still don't have a dream for Lambertones, and I'm not really sure why. I don't have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I probably should. But I read this book, let's see, 2 summers ago, and it was called the $100 Startup. And it just sort of lit a fire under me to basically what the premise of the book is to, once you make a choice, then you have more choices to make. And so I basically took that and analyzed where I was at, and I didn't know how to do everything. Like I was talking about, I mean, I didn't know how to source materials. I didn't know how to process orders or ship things or stuff like that. But all I did know was how to build a website. So then I built a website, and then because I built a website, then I have all these other things, all these other decisions I can make. And so making a decision opened up more decisions for me to make. And that's what I've been doing since day one. It's just making a choice and then continuing to make the best choice that I can in that moment as I move on, because I couldn't plan for today. I couldn't plan that this happened. I couldn't plan all the people I've been able to meet and talk to and stuff like that. It's just, it's impossible to think like that, and to think that you can sort of plan your dreams to come true. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but certainly for me, it's just been action and commitment and habit over motivation. I mean, just building habits and continuing to do the same things every day, and continuing to try to make a purposeful and good choice with every, tough and easy situation, that I get into, and then just letting that sort of develop the path that we go to. Because, yeah, that's why we're talking. That's why we're here, and it's great.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good point. I like that. I've never heard that put in that perspective before, but about just keep making choices and making decisions. And I know, like, for somebody like me, I sit on decisions a really long time and have trouble pulling the trigger on decisions, but that's some good stuff.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it. I am definitely an analyzer, and I love to look at things from all different angles, which is why, which is why I could be a really bad gearhead if I wasn't actually too busy building things and building things for other people. I would be a really bad gearhead of always trying to figure out what's the next best thing. So it's a good thing I have other things to do. But
well, let's shift gears here for a second.
Yep.
I met you at this most recent NAMM out in Anaheim. Was that your first NAMM?
First NAMM. First
Awesome.
and last NAMM.
First and last. I tell you what was your kind of walk us through what your experience was like there?
Oh man. Well, I gotta say, I would not have had a great experience if I didn't have people lead me through the show. There was a couple guys that really just sort of took me under their wing and introduced me to people that they knew, and showed me the different halls and the different areas, and just how to do NAMM. They showed me how to do that. Since I wasn't showing, I didn't have a booth. I could have walked around and not had a productive conversation all day, and that's probably what would have happened if I didn't have these guys there. So definitely having a tour guide that knows, who you are and knows what your, sort of what your goals and expectations are, was really helpful. But from a first-time experience, it was just beyond overwhelming. The noise level, I couldn't believe. It was just so loud in there, and I lost my voice the first day, just screaming in each other's ears like, "Hi, how are you? I'm trying to make pickups," and so I got better at my 30-second pitch, but that's not comfortable either. I'm not a natural salesman. I don't love to tell people that they need my product because it's better than what they have or what they've heard of before. That's not a natural conversation for me. I like to build things and I like to do things well. And now I have to, to be a business owner. I have to, sell and have somewhat of a business mind to be able to do that for my profession. But I don't really have the selling bone in my body that's natural. But NAMM was crazy. I don't know, and I'm sure at first this is what a lot of builders sort of struggle with, is like, when do we commit and invest in showing in a booth? When's the right time for that, and how do we make sure that we're going to recover financially from that sort of investment? And so that's what I've been going back and forth in my head. It's like, when's the right time to do that? Is there a right time to do that? And how to do that well? I mean, how do you make a pickup booth well in an environment that's insanely loud? I don't know.
Totally.
So that's definitely a problem that I've been sort of rolling around in my head as to how to do it, when to do it, if to do it, and if I'm going to do it, well, I want to do it really well, and how to do that. So
yeah. Well, it's you don't know how many builders just walking the floor and bumping into people that you meet who are just there to kind of talk to people, and they're not presenting or anything like that, but I still think it goes miles in networking
sure,
on the floor.
definitely.
I mean, there's just I don't know if you experienced this, but I would imagine it would be so that all of the guys who follow you on social media, they run into and say, oh, that's the guy that makes those cremas.
Yeah. It in a weird way, I was sort of hoping to walk through the show and have someone, yell my name, Lambertones, and that didn't happen. And so it's like, that's sort of messed up to sort of wish that happened. And I'm not super comfortable actually admitting that, but there's this raw, real truth for you. So I was kind of hoping that was going to happen. That didn't happen, but I did get tapped on the shoulder a couple times, and people introduced themselves, which I'd been corresponding with online for the last year, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed actually getting to meet face to face some people that I had actually that have really invested and benefited and helped me learn how to do this successfully. And so that was really great. And I was, I'm thankful for that part of the show for sure. And if anything, I'll continue going just for that, for those connections and to maintain those friendships and to build new ones too, of course.
Absolutely. Well, let's hit some questions from our listeners and some of the people who responded. Here's some questions for you. One guy, his name is Tim. He said, "Any gold foil in the future are open humbuckers?"
I mean, gold foils are sort of an interesting avenue to go down because you have to have a lot of capital to invest in a press for the frame of the pickup itself. Like, you can't just buy it off of Mojo 10 or all parts, or and even overseas you can't really source those frames. So there's a couple companies that build them, and I'm sure it costs a pretty penny to have a press made for that type of thing. So at this point, I would not say that's like our number one goal, to make a goal, like an actual true like Tysco style like gold foil. It would be great. I'd love to have that option someday, but at this point, I think there are other things that we're more interested in investing in.
Totally. Michael Newman, I know he's got a set of your pickups.
Yeah.
He says, where do you get the magical fairy dust you use in your pickups to make them sound so good?
Well, I pray over every single set before I send them out, and no, I'm just kidding. um, yeah, it goes back to that sort of clinical approach to winding. So there's I'll probably get some flack for this, and I'm okay with that. I think we'll see. But there's sort of like this I don't know, snake oil approach to pickup winding of hand winding versus machine wound, and whether one is better than the other, or one's cheating, or one isn't authentic. And I'm not here to make that argument. But what I am here to say is that I've been able to develop an approach that is machine wound and is consistent. And I think the consistency part is actually more important than people think. And I use special tools and able to keep the wire, at a certain tension at a certain point in the winding process. And when you do that in a way that matches with the magnet type, the magnet power, the construction of the magnet, the wire type, the wire finish, the wire thickness, all those variables affect one another. And with the machine wound part, we've been able to then take the variable of winding out of the equation, and then we can work with the other variables. So it's a painstaking process. I mean, I was on another podcast this last summer, and I think I told them that it was like 45 or 50 versions of the crema before I found something that was even remotely in the right direction. And then it was quite a few variations after that. But it takes a long time, and it's not, you can't just put a bobbin on a drill or a winder and wind yourself a coil and expect it to sound good. There's too many variables to expect a great result from that. And so I take a clinical approach to it and go methodically and patiently and slowly. And over time, I've been able to come up with a process that people seem to really like, and it's great.
Okay, Jonathan Sullivan.
Yeah.
He asked, what's up with the Lambertones?
Oh, man. So I sort of got myself in some hot water with these Lambertones because I started talking about releasing them a couple months ago. I think it was before Thanksgiving. And I think people were on Black Friday. People were sort of expecting me to launch a new model and launch these Filtertron, Lambertone style pickups. And I got so overwhelmed with orders over Black Friday, and then through Christmas, and then New Year's, and then now the anniversary of Lambertones, that we haven't had a single R&D day since before November, which is really sad. And that's something that I really want to get back to, but we've been busy solid since Thanksgiving in November. So the Lambertones are coming. I don't want to say a date anymore because I keep pushing it and I keep disappointing people, and I don't want to do that. But they are coming. They're on the books, as well as our Silent P90s. Those are the two things that are coming next that I'm really excited about. But yeah, I'm sorry those aren't here yet, Jonathan. I'll send you a set as an I'm sorry and thank you for being patient. How's that sound?
Cool. Mike Freed has kind of a thought-provoking question here.
Ooh.
He says, in a field that is getting increasingly crowded, what do you bring to the market that sets you apart?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are a couple things. Technically speaking, because we do machine wind things and we have pretty much automated that part of the process, we have been able to keep a consistency that other makers can't. And so since the first day of sending out pickups, we've been able to keep a 2% tolerance from the first pickup we've sold to today, which is not industry standard at all. That's why you can, go to Guitar Center or some other store and pick up 100 different Strats and of the same model and series, and they're all going to sound a little different. But we can keep our pickups at a really high tolerance. So you sort of know what it's going to sound like. You can watch the demos online and as much as, as well as you can from a reference monitor or speaker or whatnot, you can really have a pretty close idea as to what Lambertones are going to sound like in your guitar. So I'd say that's something that that's different about us that not everybody can claim. And right now we build to order, so you can be part of the entire process. You can have total control over any relicking or aging. We try to approve that with every customer before we send something out. We don't stock things on the shelf. If you do, decide to make an order, make a purchase, there's a section in there of a note to the builder, and I love getting that because then we get to learn more about who you are and what you like and whatnot. And so a lot of the email threads that I have back and forth with potential customers, and then a lot of them end up being customers, are quite long because we get to know each other and we get to figure out what they're into, what they enjoy, and what they're after tone wise. And I have no problem sending someone somewhere else to another pickup maker, because I know that we fill a niche, and I know that what we do well. I think what we do well, but I know we don't do it all, and I'm really, really okay with that. And so if someone tells me they want this and this, and they're hoping the cremas are going to do that for them, I'm like, I don't think they are. I would maybe check out McNally's, check out Lawler's, check out, DiMarzio's, because those, from what I know and from what I've heard, might serve you in a better way. So I don't mind turning away business. That should not be something a business owner should say, but I don't mind turning away business if I know that if they buy from me, they're not going to be happy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to con anybody into thinking that what I have is going to make everyone's tone quest. And so far from, a lot of people we've heard from, right now we have a less than 0.5% return rate, which is great. But I think I can attribute that because we've turned away people too and told them, I don't think this is going to be, your thing. And so I don't know. I don't know if other companies do that. I don't know if people turn other people away if they know what they have might not be the best fit. But I really want whoever invests in Lambertones to be really excited and happy with what they have. And if they don't love it, then they're not going to be a great brand ambassador, and they're not going to be excited about sharing it with their friends, and they're going to be more critical about it with other people asking about it. And that's not good for me. It's not good for the business growth. That's not good for brand recognition. And so I'd rather steer their hard-earned money towards something that they're going to love and enjoy and share about than have them invest in something that in the end is probably actually going to turn future business away from me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Emily Harris, I believe you were on her show, right?
Hey, Emily. Yeah.
She said, talk about coffee and cats. Well, obviously, I don't know anything about cats. had a cat briefly several years ago, and that didn't last very long. So I don't
Nope.
I don't have any point of reference there.
No, I don't think anybody knows much about cats. They're strange creatures. Um, I do have a cat, and I do love her. She's an interesting creature, that's for sure. But I'm married now, and my wife is a dog person, a dog lover. And so now I have a 110-pound Rhodesian Ridgeback that is almost a year old. And so now I am a dog guy. So as much as I would love to claim cat guy, I'm now more of a dog guy because the cat takes care of itself and I can leave her for weeks. But the dog I have to nourish and take care of and exercise and love and cuddle, and it's great. It's definitely brought a new perspective of joy to my life, which is cool. Didn't expect that. Really tried to push back on that for a while, but yeah, I guess I'm a cat guy. Sorry, Emily. I mean a dog guy. I guess I'm a dog guy.
Well, coffee. Favorite cup of coffee?
Oh man, so the best cup of coffee I really try to make almost every day. So I get this roast from a semi-local roaster called the Walla Walla Roastery, and they have this roast from Guatemala. I think it's called Los Volcanes, and I grind it myself. I buy the whole beans and I grind it myself, and then I do an AeroPress, and I make a black cup of coffee every day from that. And right now I don't have any desire to go get coffee from anywhere else. Partially because I'm living in Yakima in Central Washington. There's nothing really
Yeah.
great in my area. So when I go to Portland and Seattle, then I splurge a little bit. But yeah, a black cup of AeroPress from Walla Walla Roastery is what I'm doing right now. That's great.
All right. Well, Adam Dolhanic has a question for you. He says, how do you decide what pickups to make? For example, humbuckers or instead of Strat, vice versa.
Yeah, great question. Well, I started with humbuckers because that's what I knew how to do. That's what I was sort of doing at my previous employment, and so just from a manufacturing standpoint, I actually knew how those worked and how to do that, and so that was my first pickup. But after that, it was sort of by what are the basics that I need to make in order to look like a legitimate pickup making company. And so obviously it's a humbucker, obviously it's a Telecaster set, and I started with those two. And I actually had no desire to do a Strat set because there's so much, I don't know, I don't even animosity. I don't know what the word is. There's so much quest for the perfect Strat pickup set. Sort of like there's so much quest for that, perfect Gibson, 59 PAF set, but certainly for Strats, it's also sort of this tone quest. And so I didn't really have any desire to do a Strat set, and just by popular demand of people on Instagram and Facebook, they're like, "Oh, when are you going to do a Strat set? When are you going to do a Strat set?" And then actually, an artist from Portland who bought my very first set. Shout out to Adam of the Common Hours Music. He bought my very first set of pickups, but he asked me to wind a Strat set for him that had a perfect neck pickup. That's what he wanted. He wanted the perfect neck Strat pickup. So I mean, well, that's what everybody wants, is the perfect neck Strat pickup. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so I sort of started winding that, and it actually turned out okay. And so I put the set in his guitar, and he played it. He's like, "Dude, I love it. You killed it." I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about Strats. I don't know anything about if it's good or not. So I'm gonna do a beta testing group, I think is what I called it." And so I had 12 or 13 people joined this beta testing group, and so they had to sign a contract where they would give me critical feedback on the Strat set, and if the set that I launched live on the site were to change more than I think 5%, then I would replace whatever pickups I changed more than that. And we actually launched with the set that I sent out. We didn't change anything, and it's definitely probably one of the pickups that I'm most proud of is the Strat set, which is sort of funny because I don't push it very, very hard, and it's definitely the lowest seller in our store by far. But everyone who tries it has just loved it. So I don't know. I guess at this point it's sort of by popular demand, like what sets we're going to do, like what I'm going to develop next. But the Lambertone is coming up. The Silent P90 is coming up. And then I'm really excited about doing a wide range humbucker. I've been doing a lot of research into those and kind of the mojo behind those. And so I'm excited to dabble in some research and development into that world. And after that, I don't know. Maybe we can ask your listeners, what kind of pickup would they like to see from us next, and maybe we'll work on something.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads and segues into Douglas King asked, what is your favorite type of pickup?
Oh man. I think in the last year I would have said almost everyone from my line, but at different times. There's been certain things that I've enjoyed about different ones. I think the one that I probably like the most is the Telecaster Neck. And the reason for that is because every Tele that I've played just sort of had a wimpy neck pickup, and there was just not a great balance between the neck and the bridge, and most people who were playing a Tele were just keeping it on the bridge all day. And well, what's the point of that? I mean, it's nice to have some variety, and you need a good rhythm tone and then your lead tone. And so I started working on a neck pickup that would balance a lot better with a bridge, with the Tele bridge. And so the neck pickup that we came out with is wound pretty heavily, but we use a different magnet type than most Tele pickups, and so it's wound hot, but it's a lower output magnet, and so it keeps this clarity and the sparkle in the high end without getting super distorted. But it has the volume output that is much closer to a bridge Tele, and so you can go between position 3, 2, and 1 and have a really balanced output. So I think the Tele Neck is probably the one that I'm most excited about.
Cool. Well, one last question, and then we'll kind of move forward here. This is kind of lighthearted. Are you a fan of chicken tenders?
I'm actually vegetarian.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't even go there then. So, do you do fried food?
Like fried green tomatoes.
Okay.
Fried green tomatoes, French fries. Yeah, fried food. Love fried food.
Okay. Well, Joshua K. Frazier asked if you liked lightly breaded or heavily breaded.
Oh, heavily breaded, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and crispy, crunchy. I love texture.
Yeah, I love some fried green tomatoes. I thought that people only in the South were into that kind of thing, so that's good to know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I sort of wish that we had more of that stuff up here. We don't really, but I do love fried green tomatoes. So
that's awesome.
When I come out there for Summer NAMM, I'll have to find some.
Dude, yeah. Well, it's pretty prevalent, so I think you won't have any trouble finding that. Some good comfort food. Well, tell us where the best place is to find, get connected online with
Good question. I mean, we sort of respond to everything except Twitter. We don't have a Twitter, thank goodness. We're moving towards more of a email-based communication system just so we can keep it all together. It's been sort of hard balancing like Facebook messages, Instagram direct, texting, emailing, all those things. And then when we're building something, it's like, oh man, like, did they want this for the neck, or were I don't remember. Now I have to go through all my, all the social media accounts to figure out, where we had that conversation last. And so I'd probably say email, hello@lambertones.com, or Instagram direct messaging is a great way also.
Awesome. Well, go follow his Instagram page, and you can kind of keep up to date with a lot of visually a lot of the things that you're doing. Speaking of Instagram, we decided we were going to have a little fun
Yes.
with this episode. And so Kurtis has a t-shirt now. This is kind of like on an IOU basis, right?
Yeah, we're designing a new T-shirt, and gonna have that printed here pretty soon. But we'd love to give one or two of those away.
Awesome. Well, we were going to be just watch for on I'll post it on my Instagram, and I'm sure we can do some reposting. But we're gonna kind of run a t-shirt giveaway for one of Kurtis's t-shirts, and so yeah, we'll get the details on that. But be looking for that, and I think it'd be an awesome chance to get some Lambertone swag.
There we go. Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, man, I've had a great time having you on the show, and just really great to getting to know, your musical journey and sort of what Lambertones is about. And I'm excited to kind of see where this journey, is leading you, and I think there's going to be some awesome things coming up.
Thank you. No, we're excited too. I mean, we don't know where it's going, so yeah, it's fun. It's new. It's fresh. It's a lot of learning, but really thankful to be here and thankful to talk with you and share part of this growing experience with other people too. I mean, I love that. I love sharing about that, and I love hopefully, I don't know, maybe we can inspire someone else someday to start their own thing and do that. That'd be great. I'd love to be helpful in that area someday. So
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Go check them out, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.